It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Let me be the first to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. It's coming up quick, and if you were to drop by my house this Thursday afternoon, I'd serve you up a traditional meal of turkey with all the fixins, but some of you out there are likely going to go a little wild on Thursday with maybe a pheasant or a duck or a goose or maybe some backstrap from a deer or an elk, maybe even a wild turkey. All sound fantastic as dishes on Thanksgiving Day. And to all of you who are going to serve up a wild game feast, I salute your success in the field. We've got a great show for you today, and as usual, it's because of our guests. In just a minute, you'll get a chance to learn about a tactic that can really up your success in the woods this deer season, and it's so obvious you'll probably be like me and wonder why you've never thought of this before. Sticking with hunting, my good friend Keith Kellogg will be joining us again. He is passionate about one thing more than anything else. That is trophy big game hunting, and he has gone all over the world in search of new trophies to hang on his wall. This time around, Keith is going to tell you about his latest trip to Russia, where he was hoping to bag two different animals, but came back with something very different and infinitely more unique. Getting back to deer, you no doubt are aware of chronic wasting disease and what a toll it takes on our deer herds. Biologists across the nation are urging hunters to have samples from their harvested deer tested to see if those animals have the disease, and this testing helps monitor both the spread of the disease and management of the deer herds that are affected and not yet affected too. Unfortunately, not everyone stops by the check stations to do this, but in Arkansas, you've got a really good reason to do so now. That's because two lucky hunters who do stop by one of these stations for testing will be drawn as winners of a lifetime combination fishing and hunting license. Jennifer Ballard, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's veterinarian, will drop by towards the end of the show to tell you more about this incentive program. Finally, we've got to share the results of the Bass Nation Championship that took place on the Wachita River in Louisiana earlier this month. The Bass Nation is the working man's grassroots circuit that culminates in a championship where the top three anglers earn berths to the Super Bowl of bass fishing, the Bassmaster Classic. The winner this year was Hawaii-born angler Matty Wong, fishing out of a 31-year-old Ranger Comanche bass boat. He not only won $20,000 and a berth to the Classic, but also the use of a new tournament-ready bass boat for a year so he can fish in the Bassmaster Elite Series, something he plans on doing. The second place winner, that was Taylor Smith. He hails from the Spokane Valley of eastern Washington, and this is his second time in 3 years of getting second place, which means he'll get to fish the Bassmaster Classic for a second time as well. We're going to get a chance to talk to Taylor today about his Bass Nation Championship experience. Before we talk more about tournament bass fishing, though, let's turn our attention back to deer hunting. Our first guest today on America Outdoors Radio comes to us from the Peach State of Georgia. It's Brian Grossman. He's the communications manager for the National Deer Association, and he's the author of a great article about in-season scouting for deer. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me on.
So I've got to tell you, this is one of those concepts that seems really obvious once it's explained to you, but the concept of scouting during the hunting season completely goes against the grain. For the vast majority of deer hunters who, spend days, if not weeks, scouting before the season begins. Tell me how you came up with this concept.
Well, it's certainly not anything that I came up with myself, but as far as the article, it was really something I've started trying to do here in the last few years, just learning from guys out there who are a lot more successful at this than I am. But what really kind of sparked, the idea for the article was a conversation I was having with Warren Womack, a very successful traditional bow hunter out of Louisiana. And I love the phrase he uses. He is big on this in-season scouting. He pretty much scouts every hunt. He'll go hunt a stand in the morning and then spend the whole midday walking miles if he needs to find the sign that he needs to hunt that evening. And the phrase he said, he stopped hanging and hoping. He now hangs and expects, to see deer, to kill deer. And then I really like that, not to hang and hope. And that's kind of what sparked the article idea to put this out there.
Well, when it comes to hanging and hoping, you're absolutely right. I mean, most folks, you do your preseason scouting, so you've got a plan A, you've got a plan B, but the deer behavior may have changed, and plan A is not working out, plan B is not working out. So it's time to scout for deer. It's during the season. Your time is limited. What do you look for? And we're going to talk about now, during the rut, and post-rut when it comes to finding and patterning bucks.
Yeah, so I'm really looking for that fresh sign, most recent sign. It doesn't do me any good to see, old rubs from last year or old scrapes or a beat down trail that's, not necessarily has fresh tracks in it. All that tells me is where the deer have been, in the past. I want to find where the deer are now.
Right.
And so, during the rut, obviously I'm looking for that buck sign. I'm looking for the freshest scrapes. I'm looking for fresh rubs, big tracks, recent tracks that indicate, that a larger deer may be in the area. And of course, I'm still paying some attention to those food sources because obviously the does are still going to be interested in feeding and the bucks are interested in where the does are. So hot food sources can certainly play a role even during the rut. But I'm looking for that fresh buck sign. And then, within that, maybe any kind of pinch point or funnel that might basically funnel deer movement. Give me an ambush spot between this fresh sign that I'm finding.
Another thing you brought out in the article I thought was just brilliant was the concept of if you're going to be scouting during the season, don't jump on the first sign of a good deer you see. Keep scouting and hold out for the place that has the best sign. Go ahead and explain this.
Yeah, and this is something I'm kind of preaching to myself here because I'm bad about this myself. You get out there, and first of all, you're wanting to be in a tree as it is. You're wanting to hunt. It's hunting season. You're not wanting to spend, an entire evening out there just walking around looking for deer sign. But so I've been guilty in the past of I'll come up on a little sign, maybe a scrape or two or something, to indicate that deer are using the area. And the first thing I want to do is throw my stand in the tree and hunt. And usually what happens when I do that is, an hour in, I'm kicking myself because this really wasn't what I was looking for. You just gotta get past that, wanting to get in the tree and just look for, the best sign, not just the first sign you come on, not a fresh track or maybe one scrape or something like that. I'm looking for that abundance of sign that just gets me fired up about the area, that has me thinking, man, I need to get in the tree now. A deer could come by at any time. They're obviously in here. They're using this heavy. I need to hunt this now. And so it's just getting past that urge to hurry up and find something and get in a tree and look for the best sign, even if it means burning an entire hunt, spending time boots on the ground, looking for that fresh sign. In the end, ultimately, I think it's worth it.
So many more questions I want to ask about this article, but so little time. But folks, if you want to read this article, I'm going to tell you how to do so. Just go to the National Deer Association website. You'll find it at deerassociation.com. That's the website to go to, deerassociation.com. Go ahead and scroll down towards the bottom of the page. You're going to see all sorts of great articles, and this one by Brian is one of them. Definitely worth the read, as you're hearing right now. Got about a minute left. Why don't you briefly tell our listeners about the National Deer Association and why they should join?
Yeah, absolutely. We are a nonprofit conservation organization, like a lot of the other ones you may be familiar with. But our mission is to ensure the future of wild deer, wildlife habitat, and our hunting heritage. And we kind of the four main focal areas that we focus on to do that. Of course, hunter recruitment is kind of right there first and foremost, getting new hunters involved in the sport. We are big on advocacy. We fight on behalf of deer and other wildlife and, our hunting heritage, our hunting rights at the federal, state, and local levels. Deer diseases are important to us, issues like chronic wasting disease and EHD, and then education and outreach. We're big on providing educational resources for the next generation of hunters and land managers through website content, our YouTube channel videos, our magazine. We offer in-person and online courses, just a whole host of resources there to help you become a better hunter or better land manager.
The National Deer Association doing some great work on behalf of both deer and deer hunters. Find out more. And again, check out this great article about in-season scouting at deerassociation.com. Brian, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Not a problem, John. I appreciate it.
Hunting and fishing are exercises in hope. Before you head into the woods, you hope to tag out on a deer you'll have to field dress. Before you make that first cast, you hope for a big fish to clean and fillet. When your hopes are realized, you'll need a sharp knife. Whether you sharpen that blade on a power sharpener in the shop or a manual sharpener in the field, WorkSharp has the tool for you. Look for WorkSharp products in sporting goods stores near you or online at worksharptools.com.
Campers, adventure seekers, hunters, and foodies. No matter the lifestyle, we can all agree on one thing. Great food and great people are worth remembering. At Camp Chef, we don't just make grills. We create each product knowing that a warm meal is always better when it's shared with those we love. Learn more about Camp Chef grills, smokers, and portable cooking equipment at campchef.com. That's campchef.com for a better way to cook outdoors.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers is the voice for your public lands, waters, and wildlife. From the Canadian Yukon to the Florida Everglades, we're stepping up to conserve North America's public lands, defend our hunting and fishing traditions, and expand access to the outdoors. Find out how you can get involved at backcountryhunters.org.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. Our next stop is not in North America. Oh no, we are taking you all the way to Russia. We're talking to my good friend Keith Kellogg. He just got back from a trip to the Kirov region of west central Russia. He was after boar, but he got something very different. Keith, welcome to the show.
John, thank you very much.
You go on these hunts about once a year, and Russia has become a favorite destination, or I should say the former USSR, because you've gone to quite a few of the different republics there. But let's talk about your recent trip to the Kirov region. And I guess we should say that getting there and getting back was half the fun. Let's just talk about the getting back part. Go ahead and describe how long that took.
Oh, the exact number of hours would be a little bit hard to pin down, but just to put the pieces together, from the Kirov region, the hunting camp where I was at was about a 2.5-hour drive to the city of Kirov, a 12-hour overnight train ride in a sleeper car, then a 12-hour flight from Moscow to Los Angeles, 2.5-hour plane ride roughly from Los Angeles to Seattle, and then a 2.5-hour drive home. And of course, that's not counting the number of hours sitting in airports, train stations, vehicles, and so forth. It was a tester for sure.
You are one dedicated hunter and world traveler, that's for sure. Now, you were after Russian boar, and I've got to ask, how are these wild boar different from the ones that we have here in the United States or in other parts of Europe that you travel half the world to shoot one?
Yeah, well, remember, I didn't go there initially for just wild boar. My initial attempt was to go to the Dagestan Republic to hunt Dagestan tur. So I did that and then jumped from there to go back to Russia where I hunted the boar. Now, the boar itself, this is the true 100% wild version of the infamous or the famous Russian boar, the big, hairy, crazy beast with the long tusks, teeth. It is an absolutely spectacular animal if you see a true giant. A lot of the pigs or the hogs that we see in the United States are interbred with domestic hogs that have escaped. So you don't get a lot of. In fact, it may be very difficult to find a true wild Russian boar. And that was my goal. I was looking for a true wild boar.
Your last trip to Russia, well, that was a great story in and of itself, or I should say one of the Russian republics. It was very hardcore, very frugal. I remember you hiked your butt off, you climbed your butt off, and one day you had nothing to eat while you're doing this except for a few small candy bars. How was this hunting experience in comparison?
In the Russian boar end of it, that's actually a pretty mild hunt comparatively because you're hunting from an elevated stand. So you go from the lodge, They'll drive you out, drop you off, you get into an elevated stand. You're hunting at purely nocturnal conditions, totally black night, and hoping that the boar will come into the bait pile, which is usually corn. And if they do, then you use a thermal vision binocular or a monocular to see the animals. And then they either click on a light where you can shoot, flashlight, or they have an actual night vision scope on a rifle that you can use as well.
Do you spend some time sighting that in? I mean, do you actually shoot it at night to sight it in?
No, not so much that. There's light. You can see through your regular scope. So I was using my own rifle, one that I've traveled many places with all over the world and very comfortable with, and I sighted it in prior to, so I knew it was shooting accurate. When I did actually have a rifle with a night vision scope on it, I did use that or sight it in earlier just to make sure, get comfortable with the trigger pull, with the feel of the stock and everything. So it's important, like any weapon, to make sure you know where it shoots, how it shoots, what it feels like, and so forth.
I guess I've never asked before, what is your favorite rifle that you take on all these hunts?
Oh boy, I've got many that I do take, but in this one I took a Tikka T3 in 270 caliber, and I have a Leupold scope on it, that's adjusted to different distances, and it's a nail driver. The thing shoots wonderfully, feels good in my hands. I trust it inside and out. It's just an amazing rifle.
Folks, again, you're listening to America Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Keith Kellogg. He tends to go on a trip somewhere around the world after big game once a year. And getting back to this boar hunt, why don't you tell us how this went down? You didn't get a boar, but you got something, in my opinion, that's even more valuable.
Yeah, that's what everybody there said as well, that the animal that I ended up harvesting was very difficult to get in these conditions, the lynx. So, they're animals of the north. You might find them in Canada and Alaska and so forth. Well, in this situation is central northern Russia, in a very wild area. And that particular night we had gone into a stand and had been sitting there for, a couple hours, I suppose, and my guide taps me on the arm and he says a word in Russian, which I had absolutely no idea. I don't speak even though the slightest bit of Russian. And he gave me the binocular, and I looked out there and I could see 3 figures, little figures out there, and I asked my translator later back at camp, and they call me raccoon dog.
Interesting.
Now, I have absolutely no idea. You're just looking at images through this. You can't tell colors or exact shapes and sizes, what have you. What a raccoon dog, if it's like a raccoon or what, but that's what they call it. So I gave the binocular back to the guide, and within less than a minute later, he tapped me again, and this time I understood exactly what he said. He said lynx, and he handed it to me, and I looked over there, and I could see through it, I could actually see this lynx stalking these raccoon dogs. And, I got excited. I'd never seen a lynx in my entire life, and I've traveled a lot and hunted a lot. But lynx are just a rare animal anywhere you go. There's just not a lot of them. And to see them in this kind of conditions are even more so. They're usually hunted with dogs in the snow, tracked and then treed. Anyway, I handed the binocular back to me, and he told me, shoot, so I get my rifle up, and I never thought going anywhere that I'd see a lynx, but, immediately my heart rates up, and, how you go from being sitting cold in a tree stand to being, totally excited, and that's where I was. So, but I got my gun out and got it up, and he whispers to me, I think he said ready, and I said ready back, whatever. So he clicked on his flashlight, and it took me just a moment or so to find the creature in my scope, because again, I'm looking out in the total black, and he'd been moving.
Sure.
And he basically squatted down right there, and the raccoon dogs were gone, but the lynx was there. I took a quick, careful aim, and boom, one shot went in the shoulder, kind of diagonally across the body, tore up the insides plenty good, and he just dropped basically right on the spot. And I had myself a lynx.
Wow.
And amazing. You've seen a picture of it, or several pictures. It's a spectacular trophy. I can't even begin to explain how beautiful that creature was, but it is amazing. A wonderful trophy.
The size is what got me. I've seen one lynx in my life, and it was big. I mean, it was definitely bigger than a bobcat, but the one you got was huge. It was the size of a healthy mountain lion. What was it, 4.5 feet long?
It was 1.3 meters, which I kind of measured out to 50 inches is pretty darn big, yeah. And, of course, if you stretch out the legs, it's going to be even more so than that. So they said it's a big one for sure, especially for that area. Yeah, I think it's spectacular.
Well, congratulations on bagging a trophy of a lifetime. Obviously, they're not called Canadian lynx over in Russia, but boy, what a magnificent animal you got there. Last question for you. You live on a pension. You do some side jobs. You're not a rich man, but you manage to do these trips about once a year. How do you pull it off?
Well, it's my passion. And if you're dedicated to your passion, you will, in this situation, save money for your passion. So this hunt was never supposed to be. I had a screwed up hunt. I was supposed to go to Mongolia in September, and that fell apart due to COVID testing in my situation. The results didn't get to me, so I got turned back at San Francisco.
Oh.
So I made a contact with my hunting consultant, a booking agent, the one in Russia I used, and we put this thing together on kind of on the fly, and it came together. I didn't get my Dagestan tour on that trip, but I'm going to Tajikistan here at the end of the month, and then on the back side of that, we're going to go back to Russia and work on getting my tour. So this year is not just a single trip. This is going to be 2 and maybe even 3 trips for the year. But no, I just frugally focus on saving my money. I just don't spend money on much of anything besides saving for hunting. I don't go out for coffee. I don't go out for lunches. I don't nothing. I mean, my money goes right into my piggy bank. And when I do it, I try and do it right. I'm not just going into another state and hunting elk or deer. I'm going internationally and hunting some of the most exotic creatures you can think of.
Well, you certainly come back with some amazing stories, and I know you're making some incredible memories. And folks, the bottom line is save your pennies, and you can do it too. Keith, thanks so much for sharing this great story with us today, and congratulations from all of us here at America Outdoors Radio.
John, appreciate it. Have a good day.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has what you need as a hunter, angler, hiker, paddler, camper, and outdoors enthusiast. They also carry an extensive assortment of firearms and ammunition you simply can't find anymore at many big box stores. On top of that, their knowledgeable staff is here to help you purchase the right gear so you can get the most out of your outdoor experience. Visit your local Sportsman's Warehouse store today or shop online anytime at sportsmans.com. Ready to step up to a quality-built rifle or shotgun that's a true classic? Check out Henry Repeating Arms, American-made. There's over 200 models to choose from in a variety of finishes and calibers for hunters and target shooters. Many of these are lever-action models with a look right out of the Old West. Don't be deceived, though. Henry Repeating Arms are modern, rugged, accurate, reliable, and have a lifetime guarantee. Find out more and order a free catalog today at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com.
I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun rise above us. Got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat. It ain't much, but if you bail, it'll
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. Our next stop is my home state of Washington. I've got to brag a little bit about a Washington State angler named Taylor Smith. He got second place in the Bass Nation Championship that was held at the Wachita River in Louisiana a couple weeks ago, and he earned a berth at the Bassmaster Classic by coming in second place. That's going to take place at Lake Hartwell in March of 2022. Taylor, congratulations.
Hey, thanks, John. I appreciate it. It's humbling to say the least. I'm super excited, so I appreciate the accolades you gave me there.
Well, it would be one thing to be humble if this was your first time in the Classic, but I'm kind of amazed. This is the second time you've come in second place at the Bass Nation Championship. The first time was actually at Lake Hartwell in 2019, and you're going to be fishing there again in a couple of months for the Super Bowl of bass fishing. Do you think that experience in 2019 will give you a little bit of an edge this next year?
That's a good question. I was there in the fall for the Nation Championship in 19, and this is going to be in the spring. So it'll fish totally different. But, knowing the lake, just knowing the layout of the lake will help. I think most of the guys fishing the Classic know the lay of the lake, though. Pretty popular tournament lake. So definitely will help having been there. We'll fish completely different in the spring than it did the fall. But I can't say that my feelings are hurt that it's there. I'm excited to go back for sure.
I get that completely. Now, the Bass Nation is called the grassroots working man's way into the Bassmaster Classic and to the full-time world of professional bass fishing. I've got to ask, you live in Little Valley Ford, that's just south of the Spokane Valley in eastern Washington. What's your day job?
I manage a claims organization for a large insurance company that inspects boats and RVs. I'm really lucky to have the job that I have. So work from my house most of the time. I do some traveling across the West Zone, especially pre-COVID. But yeah, that's my day job.
I'll be darned. But obviously you're fishing a lot of weekends. That much is clear from the fact that you've done so well. Let's talk a little bit about the road to the championship twice over. What tournaments did you fish in the Northwest to get there representing Washington State in the last year?
Yeah, so the last time I fished the Bass Nation, I've only fished it twice. I've been really fortunate to qualify for the Classic both times, which came with, a lot of good fortune. The last time I fished through Idaho, actually, and qualified through the Idaho Bass Nation qualifiers. This time I qualified through the Washington qualifiers. And I couldn't make the Idaho ones, so I fished the Washington ones. And there was, Columbia River was during COVID, so there was only one weekend of qualifiers. It was in August when we were kind of getting back on the water due to regulation in Washington. And so it was down out of Umatilla, the state qualifiers. And at that tournament, the top 10 from the state make the state team. And then we went on the next spring to regionals where 10 people from every state in the West competed at regionals at Lake Havasu. And at Lake Havasu, I was fortunate to win regionals. The top person from every state goes to nationals. So I was the top person in my state, and I actually won the whole tournament. And so that's what brought me to the Ouachita River at nationals this year.
And how did you manage to get into second place? And one thing I want to talk about is the fact that you didn't just use one boat during this 3-day tournament. You used both a fiberglass boat and an aluminum boat.
Yeah, that's right. The Ouachita River is a super complex fishery for a lot of reasons, but a big reason is navigation. It's a hard place to navigate, and there's a lot of long runs. It's a big body of water. And I usually don't pre-practice for tournaments, which means, you go check out a body of water before the actual practice starts.
Right.
But in this case, I did because it's a tough place to navigate. So I towed my glass boat. I have a Triton TRX 20, and I towed my glass boat down before the off limits started, so to pre-practice, and drove around for a few days and was lucky enough to have a guy there that had an aluminum boat, access to an aluminum boat, Tyler Stewart. Him and I went out in the aluminum boat he had just to look at some backwaters that you can't get into with a glass boat. So I could make a decision on what I wanted to focus on when I came back. Left my glass boat down there, left my truck down there. And then when I flew back for the tournament, I had arranged to borrow an aluminum boat that kind of fit the bill for a tournament-ready boat, which for BASS, you have to have a very specific set of things on a boat, live well lights. It can't be a jet. It has to be a prop. So I found a boat that would be tournament-ready for a bass tournament that I could borrow. And then I had both boats so I could make a decision based on pre-fish, based on water level, what area of the river I was going to fish, which was instrumental in getting second place. The only reason second place was having access to both boats.
Okay, I've got to ask you to name names. What kind of aluminum boat are we talking here?
Yeah, it was an old, low roughneck.
I'll be darned.
Bottom with a 40-horse Merc on it. Yeah. So an old kind of center console, live wells in front of the console. There's some cool pictures of it on Bassmaster. The guy that let me borrow it is from Louisiana. I'll tell you what, Southern hospitality in Louisiana is a real thing. I can't speak to how nice and generous people were to me the entire week there, but specifically Gene Latour let me borrow his boat, and he put like $2,000 into, making sure it had a new trolling motor and lights and all this new batteries. And so I'm super grateful to him and his friends who kind of helped me out to let me borrow it. But it was an old, low, roughneck boat, and man, it's perfect for that application, for getting into skinny water, backwater areas.
Well, sure, because that's a John boat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tiny little guy. Yeah, they had 17-footer. They have to be over 16 foot to fish a tournament in bass, so it's a 17-foot boat. So not tiny, definitely, bigger than what I visualize as a John boat, but that's what it is. It's a big John boat. Darned.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I've got to ask, you've got this good job. You fish a lot of local tournaments in Idaho and Washington, but having made the Bassmaster Classic twice now, that's like lightning striking twice. Are you going to go pro? Are you going to try to, get to the Bassmaster Elite at some point or start fishing a bunch of the Opens and try to do this full time? You certainly seem to have the talent to do so.
Well, I appreciate that. And I get asked that a lot. In fact, John Stewart, just before we got on the phone, was texting me to ask me what I was going to do with the Opens this year, because part of getting second place at Nationals, you win free entries into all 9 Opens.
Oh, wow.
All the divisions of the Opens. And, that's tough to do from the Northwest and hold a job, right?
Right.
It's a lot of travel. It's not even the money, just the time away from work to go compete in the Opens. It's a big commitment. And, so I can't answer your question because I don't have an answer yet. I'm still kind of hashing some things out. I have to make a decision in the next 3 days. I'm leaning, to be completely honest, on not fishing the opens this year. And the reason being is it's just a big sacrifice of things at home, from the hunting I love to do to fishing all the local Northwest stuff. I love fishing with my tournament partner, Dan Jensen, and we have a ton of fun fishing a lot of the local Northwest bass. We're considering Wild West bass next year, and I have a ton of fun doing that. I'd have to sacrifice that, and I just don't know if it's worth it. A lot of times guys go fish the opens for what goal? It's the Bassmaster Classic.
Exactly.
And, I'm getting to do that this year, and I'm super humbled and grateful to get to do it. As you went to the Classic last year. I know that, John. And
right.
You can see the passion there when you go there, and it's because most of the people there have been dreaming of being there since they were waist high.
Yeah.
And I've been watching the Bassmaster Classic with my dad since before I can remember. And to be able to go once with such a great experience, road tripping with my dad to go there was just so cool. And having Michaela, my wife, there, and a bunch of my friends supporting me was such a cool experience. And to get to do it again, it's just, I don't have words. I don't think it's really sunk in, but I'm so excited. So to answer your question, I don't know that I'm going to go quote unquote pro or not. I guess if I win the Classic, I might have a different answer for you.
Well, I'll tell you what, Taylor, representing Washington State and being from Washington myself, I'm going to be rooting for you to do so. And if you do so, I'm going to get you back on the air, and I'm going to ask that question again. In the meantime, we've got to wrap things up. If you want to follow Taylor Smith, just follow the Bassmaster Classic. He's going to be there March 4th through 6th at Lake Hartwell, and that's going to be televised and get all sorts of media coverage. Taylor, wishing you the best of luck, and I hope to see you at some of the local tournaments out of Potholes Reservoir next year.
Great talking to you, John. Thank you for having me on.
I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun rise above us. Got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat. It ain't much, but if you bail, it'll float. I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it.
This portion of the show is brought to you by our friends at WorkSharp. And if you are hunting this fall, you know the importance of a sharp knife. You're going to need it for gutting that animal, butchering that animal, taking the hide off that animal, and there's a good chance you're going to have to sharpen it more than once while you're doing these things in the field. That's why a pocket knife sharpener or the guided field sharpener from WorkSharp are great items to have with you. Whether you're after deer, elk, pronghorn, or bear, a sharp knife helps you get things done after you drop that animal. Look for WorkSharp products at sporting goods stores, hardware stores, and ranch and home stores near you, or online at WorkSharpTools.com. That's WorkSharpTools.com.
Hey, how'd the meeting go with Tommy's school counselor today?
Well, not exactly as planned. I think we need help.
Help? Why do we need help?
Well, I asked her about paying for college, and she said that's not something they do.
Maybe it is time to get some help. Even if Tommy just goes to state college, it's going to cost at least $25,000 a year. We'll have to rate our retirement and pay for Tommy's tuition. There's got to be a better way.
There is a better way. A way where you can pay less for college, or even receive college tuition free, regardless of your income or your students' grades. A way for you to keep your hard-earned income and savings for your future and spend less on college, while virtually eliminating the need for student loans. Get the facts about college admissions and tuition by going to tuitionprograms.org. That's tuitionprograms.org. Tuitionprograms.org. Get the facts about college admissions and tuition by going to tuitionprograms.org.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstances, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the darkest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a non-profit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference. That's huntofalifetime.org.
Why book at Sportsman's Cove Lodge?
Why is Alaska like no other place on Earth? It hasn't changed in thousands of years.
From the way you get here on a float plane to the way you go out with the guides and the boats, it's just a professional experience.
And I said, this is as good as it gets. I said, if you can't catch fish here, you can't catch fish anywhere.
Your experience with us will leave you speechless.
Book now at alaskasbestlodge.com. You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. Our next stop is Arkansas. We are talking to Jen Ballard. She is the state veterinarian for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. And our topic today is chronic wasting disease. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Arkansas is doing some really good stuff when it comes to incentivizing people to have their deer sampled for chronic wasting disease. Before we get there, though, let's talk about CWD. Number one, what is it? And why does Arkansas and other states have locations set up to test for CWD from harvested animals?
So chronic wasting disease, or CWD, is a prion disease. That's a category of diseases that are caused by misfolded proteins. And in the case of chronic wasting disease, it's very specific to cervids. It affects multiple species of our wild cervids here in North America. And the main reason that state conservation agencies want to test for it is because this is a disease that has the potential to cause our wildlife populations to decline. It's a very significant threat to their long-term stability, and our best opportunity for battling this disease, keeping the prevalence low, and protecting our wildlife populations is actually early detection. The sooner we can catch it, the more aggressive we can be, and the more likely we'll be to have success at managing the disease. So that's why we put out these locations and ask hunters to help us do this surveillance, because early detection is very, very important for how we manage chronic wasting disease.
I've spoken to game and fish officials in other states, and they've told me that they don't get nearly the amount of animals tested at check stations they would like to. Has this been an issue in Arkansas as well, where it's just a voluntary testing and you're not getting as many samples as you'd like to have?
You know, we can always use more samples, especially statewide. It's a little touch and go, because in areas where we know we have the disease, we tend to have a much better turnout on hunters wanting to get their animals tested. Where in other areas where we have lower densities of deer, or we feel like we're really far away from a known CWD area, there's a less interest in having the animals tested. And so in some of those areas, we struggle a bit more, which is one of the reasons that we have incentivized getting your animal tested, and we're hoping to boost it. But in all fairness, our hunters came through for us tremendously last year. Actually, last year was a record-setting year for the number of samples submitted. It's entirely voluntary for our whitetail deer, and we're rooting for another record-breaking season this year.
Well, let's talk about that incentive. I love this. This is a great idea. Essentially, two people who have their deer tested, they're going to get something very special. What is that?
They are going to get a coupon or a voucher that they can use to purchase a lifetime hunting and fishing license here in the state of Arkansas. The prize is being sponsored by the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation. That's one of our partner organizations, and we're very excited to be able to offer this opportunity, because that is an expensive license that a lot of people really wish that they had, and we're hoping we can make that happen for a couple of folks this year who are willing to participate.
If there are other people listening today who work for state fish and game or wildlife agencies, I hope you're listening to this. This is really a great out-of-the-box idea, and I have no doubt you are going to get a whole lot more people bringing their deer in just for a chance at this lifetime license. Now, if somebody does come in and their deer test positive for CWD, I understand your agency is going to call that hunter and let them know that. Is that because CWD-infected deer are unsafe to eat?
Well, first and foremost, I have to say the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission is not a public health agency, and so we don't make recommendations for public health, but we do convey to our hunters the recommendations that have been made by the Arkansas Department of Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and they do not recommend consuming animals that test positive for CWD. There's never been a case of chronic wasting disease infecting a person, but because of what happened with mad cow disease and the many, many unknowns around prion diseases, it's generally recommended recommended by public health officials that people not consume any animal that's infected with a prion disease, including CWD.
I think that's sound advice. Like she said, you don't want to eat a diseased deer. I think that's just common sense. If somebody does get their deer tested and they get the call, hey, bad news, it's infected, do they get a replacement tag so they can go hunt again?
Yes, whenever possible, we do give a meat replacement tag that they can go out and harvest another deer. Obviously, we can't reopen seasons if they've already closed. So, there's some limits on what we're able to do. But yes, we do try to give them a replacement tag. Not every hunter takes us up on that. Honestly, in Arkansas, folks start out with 6 tags a year, and not many people fill all 6 tags anyway. So sometimes they just choose to go fill one of their existing tags, but we will provide them with a replacement tag if they ask for it.
It sounds like the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission is really going above and beyond in terms of trying to monitor and manage chronic wasting disease and going out of their way to help hunters who are helping them too. I think it's absolutely great. Is there a website where folks can find out more about this topic?
Absolutely. So specific to the state of Arkansas, you can come to our website at agfc.com/CWD, or if you need information on a more national scale, there's a great website that compiles state-to-state information. It's cwd-info.org, and that's a great place to just find all kinds of stuff about this disease and what you can do to help.
All right, chronic wasting disease. Arkansas is definitely at the forefront of trying to manage the situation and coming up with some great ideas on how to do that in partnership with hunters. Jen, thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Henry Repeating Arms, and if you are looking for a really special gift to give to somebody you love for Christmas, you'll be hard-pressed to do better than buying a rifle or shotgun from Henry Repeating Arms. They are going to love it. I mean, these are beautiful rifles. They are rugged. They're made in America. They're accurate right out of the box, and every time that person you give this gift to takes that rifle or shotgun out of the gun case, they're going to think of you and the fact that they got the special heirloom for Christmas. So check out the entire lineup of rifles and shotguns available through Henry Repeating Arms. You can do so at their website at henryusa.com. Look for a dealer near you. If you have any questions, just contact the award-winning customer service staff. Don't forget to ask for your free catalog and decals and make it a very special Christmas for someone to remember. The website again, henryusa.com. And now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the show.
It's time to talk record fish.
The state of Pennsylvania has announced there is a new record walleye in the Keystone State. It all happened on the evening of October 28th when 62-year-old Connellsville resident Richard the Breeze Nicholson went fishing with his son on the banks of the Youghiogheny River. The two were having a good night, reeling in a nice sauger and a meaty 9-pound walleye when the massive record walleye took the bait of the live creek chub he was using. Now, it was no easy task to get this fish to the bank, especially given the fact Nicholson's reel was spooled with only 6-pound test, but after 25 minutes, they got it to the bank and into the net, and that fish was so big it actually broke the net they were using. As for the walleye, it was 34 inches long and fat too, with a girth of 21.5 inches. Nicholson took it home with the other fish, intending on cleaning them and eating them. That is, until his son looked up the state record and found out it was a 17.9-pound walleye that was caught back in 1980. Eyeballing this big walleye, he suggested to his dad that they go to the local grocery store and get the fish weighed in on a certified scale. They did, and Nicholson's walleye weighed in at 18 pounds 1 ounce, beating the old record by half a pound. Way to go, Richard the Breeze Nicholson. That is a fishing story for the ages.
Congratulations on your new record.
As we wrap things up, I want to remind you that our annual Christmas gift giveaway show is coming up the first week of December. And I'll tell you, one of the gifts we're giving away is from Camp Chef. And it's going to be a really big gift. And that's not the only gift we're giving away either. You're not going to want to miss this show for a chance to win some great gifts from sponsors like Camp Chef and Work Sharp, and a sponsor of our regional show, Sena Sea Seafood, offering wild-caught Alaskan seafood delivered to your door. This, as always, is going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to share that show with you. So be sure to tune in the weekend of December 4th, and be sure to participate through our Facebook page at America Outdoors Radio or through our website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Here's wishing you a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm hoping you'll be surrounded by family and friends and that you'll have a wonderful day together, giving thanks for all that God has blessed us with. Until next time, do remember this. It is your country and you're outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.
From a bull elk ripping a bugle across the valley to wing beats on a duck marsh, public lands and waters are integral to our outdoor heritage. Become a member of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers and stand up for our public lands and waters. Visit backcountryhunters.org today.